And welcome everyone to another edition of Orlando Magic Pod Squad. Dante Marchitelli, George Galante, Jeff Turner, David Steele here with you. Just 22 games remain on this Magic schedule. They'll be back in action at the time of this recording, which is Thursday. They'll be back in action tomorrow, close out the final 22 games. And we're all just finishing up our All-Star breaks. And guys, I don't know about you, but All-Star break for me came at a pretty good time. I feel like we got the batteries charged and I'm ready to close out these final 22 games, fellas.
Yeah, it always seems to arrive just in time, doesn't it? Just when you think, boy, I don't know if I can get through to the end of this, and then it finally gets there. It is a great break. It seems like it's later every year. It gets later and later.
At some point, we'll just take the break after like game 78. Then we'll only have 4 games left to go for the regular season. But I'm a little jealous, Dante. I'm a little jealous of these guys. I'm looking at, my background is my normal. I'm in my house, and Dante, you're in your house, and
you and I went nowhere.
David is in the middle of the woods, and JT looks like, I'm pretty sure he's somewhere near the coast. I see a nice bright blue sky. I'm very jealous right now.
See if I can get some more of that blue sky in there for you.
Jealous.
Nice. Really
jealous.
That's cool. Look, where'd you guys go?
Listen, I'm in Florida still, so I can get back. I'm a little bit worried about my partner down there with the rocking chair.
I can put that truck on cruise control. It knows how to get home. Believe me, JT.
Okay.
It's taken this route many times.
JT,
I'll be back.
I think David asked if he could just do the last 22 games from the cabin remotely. I believe that was a request put in.
That's pretty nice up there.
Pretty nice up here.
That's a good spot. Did you guys do you get reception at the cabin, David? Did you get to watch the All-Star festivities?
No, there's no phones, TV, or anything up here. So it's a total wipeout. No, of course not, Dave. No, we have, we
were texting and all that.
I'm not walking around barefooted with, corncob pipes. It's not that rural. Yeah, we have TV up here.
Well, I'm seeing the deer hanging behind you that you shot and killed the other day.
I was able to watch. I was able to watch a lot. It was very entertaining. What did you guys think? I thought the Rising Stars. I had a feeling it would be interesting, and it wasn't very interesting until the last couple of possessions. But boy, when the score in these target games gets up close to the target, you got some pretty good basketball, some great competition in all of these games.
I'm starting to be a fan of the Elam ending. I kind of. It really makes it kind of interesting, doesn't it? I think it's just something that it'll be interesting to see where Adam Silver and the owners committees take this. Maybe it's in the in-season tournament. I don't know if that comes about. Maybe they experiment with it, but it does make it compelling, doesn't it? It just it's not playing the clock out. It's it's kind of what it reminds me of is kind of like when we were kids and you're playing, we're going to play to 10, that's the
11.
score. I mean,
right.
Yeah, exactly. So it's pretty cool. I like
Joe Glass has been calling this for years, right?
Absolutely.
He wants us to play to 100. And then, he looks at his watch. He's like, see, it's 8:45. We'd be home by now.
What's your score? Is 100? Would 100 be the number? 110?
No, you can't.
What would your number have to be?
Yeah, I don't think you can do 100 in today's NBA. I think it has to be a little more if you were ever to do that. I mean, what do you guys think? I think 110 is would be a pretty good target number if you're going to do
what about you could think of all kinds of scenarios. You could not do it for every game, but if a game was like say, I don't know, 5 minutes left and it's a 15-point game or 10-point game or something, could you put a target score to finish the game off, just and see if the team rallies, and if not, then then the game is over? Or what about overtime? What about every overtime game
there you go.
is a target score? The game's tied, and then you put X number of points on the board, and the first team to get there in overtime wins the game. Because you have some pretty uncompelling overtime finishes. I think that might add to it. That's a possibility.
What about all the games in April this year?
Just try it out.
Just give it a shot.
Just give it a little teaser.
It's like anything, though. You start thinking about that. So you said 100, 110. Now, do you start affecting the record books, though? Right? Like, you're going to have less, players exploding for 50 points. Do you limit Steph Curry's ability to get 15 threes in a game or whatever, you know what I mean? Whatever that might be, or something like that. I mean, I don't, it's just, there are all kinds of ramifications for doing those things.
Yeah.
But
Traditionalists, there would be traditionalists who would
yeah,
not want to see any of this happen for sure.
Well, it was fun seeing Franz hits the free throw that sinks the championship, right, for Team Barry, and they win the Rising Stars Challenge. That was cool. You had Cole Anthony. He played well. He had some highlight reel plays, caught a lob from Jalen Suggs off the backboard, 16 points for Suggs in that game. You have the slam dunk contest, which we don't have to get into. We can, but we don't have to. Was,
no, I don't think we should.
It was kind of a hard watch.
Like that didn't exist.
But Orlando was well represented in Cleveland. And George, we've had a practice now or two under our belt. How do those guys feel? How did they look? What was the feeling from those guys now coming back from Cleveland? It tends to change guys a little bit, I think, in a good way, which Jeff and David have alluded to before the All-Star break. Rubbing elbows with some of the greats, I got to think did wonders for them.
Well, I mean, those guys, the three guys that went, Jalen and Cole and Franz, I mean, they get a taste of what it looks like now, and they want to go back, and they want to be a part of, not only do they want to be a part of Friday night and Saturday night, but it makes them strive to see, they want to get to Sunday, the goal of everybody that goes to All-Star Weekend. And we've had guys that have done that before, that have done just the slam dunk contest or the 3-point shootout. And they even, they say, they're like, listen, it's nice to be here on Saturday, but I want to be here on Sunday. And those are the best of the best. And so that does give them a glimpse of what the elite echelon of the league is and where they have to work to go to. And so I think it's nothing but good things for those three young guys to give them a target of, hey, listen, like, this is where you want to go. This is where you want to be. You want to be there on Sunday of All-Star Weekend. And then for everybody else, it's like you said, I think they take it just the way we did. Like you need a break. You need that 5-6 days where you're not going to practice and you're not doing anything. You're not going to the gym. Now, knowing our guys, they probably were in a gym somewhere at some point. Well, hopefully they were in a gym somewhere at some point, not laying down like I was for 6 days, but it refreshes their minds too. Like they now go into a practice last night, and we practiced at 4:00 in the afternoon, which is late for a practice, but it gives time for everybody to get back in from wherever they are all across the country and the world, and they're ready to go. They're ready to get to these last 22 and see where we can improve.
Did you guys, how powerful was the top 75? Trotting out those guys, right? 89-year-old Bob Pettit there. I mean, just seeing all the greats that paved the way, an emotional Shaq, an emotional Barkley, like how caught up they were. I don't know, George, I don't know if those guys stayed through Sunday or if those guys got there earlier and got to rub elbows with any of those top 75, but having all those guys there being announced, like that was powerful, man. That was awesome. I thought
it was cool. It was fun to watch them interact too. I mean, not just that they were there, but that they seemed to thoroughly enjoy each other's company. And, I'd love to have been a fly on the wall or just been hanging around there to hear some of the conversations between some of those legends,
Yeah.
And I thought it was really cool too, to see all those people. It's hard to understand why some would not have shown up. I don't know any background on any of, why not all 75 who could be there were not there. I don't understand that, but boy, it was really special for those that did show up. That's for sure.
Oh, trust me, there was a lot of talking behind the scenes and everything about back in my day,
oh yeah, you know exactly what happened. That's right. A lot of back in my
All-Star game. We wouldn't have had 73s. We would have been competing, playing a little bit. That Adetokounmpo guy, that's how you play and stuff like that. There's a lot of that going on, I think.
Yeah.
I liked a lot of the social media clips, David, like you said, where you're watching them interact or you're watching somebody run into somebody maybe that they haven't seen or that they've never interacted with before. I felt the same way as you guys. I would have liked to just sat in the room and just watched. Like I would have just loved to have seen those guys talk to each other and interact. That part of it was very cool for me.
Yeah,
how about the coaches? You watch Rick Barry. It was kind of fun to watch the coaches of the Rising Stars. Rick Barry started out, he had no emotion. He was just kind of sitting there, and just kind of taking it in. But then by the end, he was he was up talking to young guys and, you know, giving them advice. It was, you know, it was interesting to watch him in particular, he was really cool in the beginning. And then he rose, you know, kind of into the situation and seemed totally engaged by the time that whole thing was over. I would like to have heard what he said to the young players. You're probably right, Jeff. It's probably something, you know, old school related. But
Right.
you know, he had a lot of words of advice for some of those young guys. I don't know if you noticed that. He was by the end, he was right in the face of a couple of those young guys.
Well, that's some good.
It's amazing. Listen, it doesn't matter how old you get. Once it starts to get competitive, it all comes back and right. And you know, I thought like it was funny watching like in a game, the James Worthy, Isaiah Thomas, that first one with Jalen and Cole. I thought, you know, both those guys were kind of cool and everything like that. Down towards the end, got a little bit more competitive, didn't it? Yeah. So Worthy's talking trash to the officials and, you know, to Isaiah. So you're right, David. That is kind of fun to watch.
They're competitors. You know, I wonder if Franz got to meet his idol, Dirk Nowitzki. Did that happen, George, over the weekend?
I don't know. I wasn't there. I was home. So I haven't really talked to him about who he saw and who he met.
I wonder.
I would like to think that it did happen, but I also thought it would have happened by now, just, you know, with various connections that all these guys have. I would have thought, you know, so I don't know. I'll have to ask him when I see him.
Yeah, we'll have to see, because I don't know when he left, when Dirk got there, but it's possible that he finally got to meet his hero, and a lot of those guys might have had.
And it's possible he didn't.
It's possible he didn't. Sure.
There's so much going on. I mean, these guys are getting pulled in 30 different directions. It's for the people that do go for the weekend, like it's not relaxing at all. It is chaotic. Right. That is why I don't want to go anymore. You know, it just, the guys get pulled in every direction, and they're trying to commit to sponsors and the league and their agents. And it's quite a fast and furious 72 hours for some of those guys.
Oh, it certainly is. David, you've done Is This Anything's on our road schedule to start the season. We've now got 22 games left, and 15 of them you have at home, and you have 7 on the road. That is hard to believe. We actually got a 6-game homestand in the middle of March. We're going to be here. We've had a historic road schedule that you've dug up. We've actually got some home games here now, these final 22. This could be fun. And hopefully you start getting some guys back here at some point too.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out for the last 22 games, because as you point out, Dante, we haven't been very good at home either. You know, we've got just 5 wins at home. And, you know, you look at the home and road stats of some of our guys, and we have 3 or 4 that have actually shot the ball, played maybe a little bit better on the road than they have at home. So maybe that's a function of young players who haven't been able to get any continuity with a homestand. You know, we really haven't had. We've had, I think, 1 4 or 5 game homestand, but we've been in and out so much and on the road so much. Maybe some of these young guys can kind of, you know, get their feet under them and start ripping it through some of these home games and down the stretch. So I would look for that to happen with some of these young players. Now they've had a little break. These 3 guys have had a taste of greatness at All-Star Weekend, so we could have some real exciting games down the stretch. We got some great opponents coming in too. Great opponents.
Yes, we
do.
Look at the schedule. Yes, we do.
Yeah.
You know, we got 3. I think it's 3 Tuesday nights in a row in March. I believe it's Golden State, Phoenix, and Brooklyn. I think in consecutive Tuesdays. Golden State, Phoenix, and Brooklyn. I don't know if it's in that order or not.
It's Phoenix on the 8th of March, and then Brooklyn on the 15th, and Golden State on the 22nd.
Well, guys, how about this back-to-back, right? You have Philly on the 13th, right? That could be James Harden, possibly. And then the next game is Brooklyn. That could be Ben Simmons. I mean, that could be your back-to-back games. And we don't know if those guys will be back, but Harden should be playing. But Ben Simmons, now they're saying,
I think Ben Simmons will. I think he'll, miraculously recover by the 15th. I think he'll be ready to go.
So.
I think he'll be ready to play.
I think that's a good
what's
target
interesting,
date for
guys,
both of those guys.
is we, we've kind of seen this a little bit before, is when the Magic, when we've had a little bit of a homestand, we had that 5-game homestand, we get a little practice, guys are able to get in the gym, and you see the team begin to make some improvements, play a little bit better. And so I think over this last stretch, you'll see that. But to you guys, what you're just talking about, our opponents, the last, after the All-Star break, the focus on where your playoff standing is, where your seeding becomes more important for the playoffs. Who's your opponent going to be? Where are you trying to get to and everything? And you look with the play-in now, especially in the East, with everybody being in, I think we're going to see our opponents really improve as well as we go down the stretch. So, could be some really good basketball down, as we close out the season, which I'm looking forward to. It should be fun.
Yeah. So you could play a lot better, which I think is going to happen, but you might not see a lot of wins because of what you're talking about. You notice Adam Silver pointed out one consequence of the play-in tournament that none of us really thought would be that significant, was that trying to hold on to the top six. So now, you've got two levels of competitiveness.
Right. You
got the teams that are, maybe 11, 12, trying to get to 10 just to get a shot. And then you've got, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there are a lot of, like you said, Jeff, there are a lot of teams that are going to be really competing hard that in past years before the play-in tournament might have just been mailing it in. So you're right. It's the competition level is going to be fierce down the stretch.
You know what I wonder, Jeff, where does the mind go? You were on that inaugural team, right? 18-64. And this team is 13-47.
Thanks for the reminder, Dante.
I just wanted to.
That. Yeah,
I just
wanted to make sure you just wanted to make sure you remembered. Sometimes
it's probably been a couple days since you thought about that.
I bring it up about once every 2 weeks just to keep him humble, Dante. So that's okay.
Yeah, got to do
that. JT doesn't need that. JT's humble anyway. But I wonder where you had veteran guys who had been in playoff situations before. I wonder where the mind goes these last 20 games, right? There could certainly be the danger of let's get this thing over with. Yeah, these young guys, to Jamal's credit, haven't been that way. But I would think the mind could go there. What are we playing for, right? The last 2 months.
Right. Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. I mean, it's you get to a point where, you remember we used to have those little pocket schedules and stuff like that. Yeah. You start ripping off the sheets and you're down to like the little thing with April, and you see how many games are left, and that's
I miss those
it can happen.
I miss those too.
I just make my own.
But I think the thing is what's great about this group that we have, because they're so young, because the coaching staff so positive, and they're building for something. Even those times, when you're kind of counting down the end of the season, it's still opportunity, right? Whether you're still playing for something, in that you're playing for your place in the NBA as an individual. Everybody, especially now, my gosh, how many NBA scouts do we have at games, that are player personnel,
true,
that are just watching players, already making plans for summer league and, next season free agent camp and things like that. So you can't just mail it in. I mean, you're still playing, but, again, to your point, Dante, when you're not really playing for anything, it does, have you looking forward to the off season and kind of planning a little bit.
No, and I don't think they'll mail it in. I just think it's another hurdle, isn't it? It's another.
It is. Mentally, it's something you got to get over. But and you guys know, I mean, we're all so impressed with Jamal Mosley and his staff.
Yeah.
And I just can't see him letting these guys think farther than game to game, and whether or not, what kind of improvement individually and as a team we can make. Because remember, we're building this thing for, future years and everything. And every game, every practice is a part of that building. So, individually, your mind can go that way. I joke about it with the schedule, but, as a team and, looking as your basketball future, you can't let that come into the equation.
But these guys are also
I
playing
witnessed
for
those early. Go ahead, George.
I was going to say, don't you think these guys are also still playing too for their spot on this team in the future as well? I mean,
absolutely.
You still have these, we're going to have a pretty convoluted backcourt again. Once we hopefully see Markelle Fultz here, soon before the season ends. And that adds another layer to things where, you have the young guys like Cole and RJ, and where do we fit, and where are we going to play? And, where's this going to fit in the future? So it's not only just the standing in the league, like it's the standing on our own team moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just going to point out that those early Magic teams that won 18 and 21 games, those first 3 years, and one team that won 31 in between those two seasons, but those were veteran teams. Those were teams that the roster was filled with guys who were plucked off of other NBA teams' rosters. So, there wasn't a lot of player development going on back then. You had Nick Anderson and, Dennis Scott in year number 2. But this is, I don't think you can really compare the two situations, and the game is so much different. And you point out, Jeff, you've got a young, enthusiastic coach in Jamal Mosley that's going to keep the pressure on these guys to improve. And you've got all the development aspects for all of these guys individually. So, I think there are different levels of different categories, I guess I should say, of teams that have very few wins going down the stretch. If you have a young team that's developing young talent with an enthusiastic young coach, I think it looks a lot different than a veteran team that's just kind of playing out the season.
Yep, totally agree. No, much different agenda for this young team for sure.
Yeah.
And so the key to what David just says was those early teams, we were just a bunch of cast-offs, that nobody really wanted. And so, that's what I got.
Stir it up a little bit more.
The nature of expansion, JT. But then you were able to hang on there and be a part of something very special.
Right.
That's right. There you go.
Yeah, but it's
nice
interesting.
Spin, David. Way to recover.
Way to recover. But then you went to the NBA Finals, JT Money. That's what David.
That's right.
That's exactly.
That's right.
You know what? I had this thing.
You
Gary
ain't much,
Harris,
but you're all we got.
Gary Harris and Terrence Ross. I had for sure they'd be traded on draft night, right? They weren't. For sure they wouldn't come to training camp. They did. For sure they won't be here past this past trade deadline. They are. Now I'm wondering, guys, is there a chance that they just want to be a part of this thing? Is there a chance that, I've completely misread that whole situation. You just look at where they are in their NBA careers and you assume they want to latch on to a contender and all. Terrence Ross has a family. He's here. They're very comfortable here in Orlando. They just built a house. And again, we don't know what the future holds. Maybe these guys move on down the road, but we don't know if Gary Harris will be bought out or not. I mean, is there a chance that these guys enjoy this and maybe wouldn't mind being a part of this thing moving forward?
I think it's possible. I don't know. None of us have, we can't get inside their heads, but I think you make a great point about Terrence in particular with, his family in schools, young children. He's been there, 6 years? This is his 6th year, I think. He was, he came mid-season one year, but I believe it's almost 6 years now that he's, you can put down some, as we all know, some pretty serious roots in 6 years. So I would think it would be, that is a more likely scenario that, maybe T. Ross would like to be a part of it. And who knows, maybe Gary sees what's going on and can see that he could be a part of something special in a short period of time. He might want to hang around too. What I do like is that, they both have been professional about the way they've approached it. And I think that's been very important, very significant factor for the team.
Well, that's what I was going to say. These guys have been pros from the minute they got, from the minute Terrence got here years ago and from the minute Gary got here last year, they've been pros. They've been doing everything that they, the coaching staffs, both last year and this year have asked of them. And they continue to do that. They continue to do that now. So those are two good guys to have in the locker room, with such a young group that we have, for sure.
I coach my daughter's basketball teams, and Terrence Ross has his son playing in that league. My daughter played against his son this past week, and in fact, Terrence's kid hit a 3 at the buzzer. He's nice, just nailed a 3. That was awesome. But fans are going up to him, calling him Torch. I wonder. I don't know if we assume it's all about winning and contending and all that. He could very well be happy. I could be misreading.
Well, listen,
but it was another layer that I hadn't really thought of.
but it also goes both ways. Like we don't know what our plans are either for the future. So like, you can want to stay all you want and maybe you don't. So, it does definitely swing both sides. So we just don't, we would like to think maybe we have an idea of what's going to happen, but we really honestly don't. So.
Sure.
And I think you look at, Terrence just turned 31, right? Like, so he's at that, that age where you start thinking about, it's raising my family and things like that. You're still competitive. You still want to win. You want that opportunity. But you look at this, this crew that we've got and the coaching staff, and, you can see it, you can see an upward trend here, and, it's not a bad place to be. And as far as Gary's been through this, right? Like with Denver, like when he was drafted, he was part of a rebuild in Denver to where they are now. So I think, from Gary's standpoint, he's 27, he's recently been through this, and he sees, how quickly it can happen. So, I wouldn't be surprised from both of them if, they'd like to stick around. But, to George's point, sometimes as a player, you don't have the final say. So we'll just have to see how it plays out.
But from the other side, Jeff, how important is it to have a couple of, when you're building with young guys, how valuable are those guys to be in the locker room, the veterans with the young players?
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing it, right? I think, both of those guys, from all indication, the coaching staff has talked about them being around. Robin Lopez, another guy, that is in the ear of these guys and kind of, teaching them the ropes and stuff. And so I do think that it's important to have veterans. And in the case of Terrence and Gary, the great thing is I think you need veteran guys that are contributing, right? They're on the floor. They can still get it done every night. Both those guys, Gary and Terrence, they're, 25 to 30 minute a night guys. They're major contributors. And then Robin, you could throw in, and he could play 35 or he could not play.
Right.
But that's how you maintain that respect in the locker room, right? That you're still a part of it. And so I think that's a big key, just bringing in, we've seen in the past, you bring in guys at the end of their career that are veteran guys. It's hard to lead in the locker room if you can't be on the court and lead by example as part of it. And, certainly Gary, Terrence and Robin do that. So that's, I think that's important.
All right, last thing, guys, and then we'll close it out because David's got to get in the car and drive back here. We need him tomorrow. We got a big we got a big game,
no
so we don't want to delay it any further.
Wait a minute, Dante. Now we know though, if I don't make it back, we're in great hands because you'll just slide right in there and just.
Well, we'll be in hands. We'll be in hands.
We'll be in hands. Nothing can replace the Florida Sportscaster of the Year.
That's right.
Congratulations, David. Congratulations, brother.
Oh, you had to bring that up.
Another plaque for the closet. Another plaque. Hold on real quick. I asked David because I was working on something and I wanted to get my facts straight. And his text back to me was, hang on, I got to go dig through the closet.
Hey, guys, I just want to say this. It's the second time he's won it. Yeah. 2009, that's when you went to the finals, right? You're into every game, right? You're winning 59 games. You're having a great playoff run. When you've got 13 wins, and you still get Sportscaster of the Year, to me, that's pretty impressive.
This one should count twice.
Right. To still have your A game through a difficult, challenging season. I think that's pretty impressive. That's well.
It is two extremes. It is ironic that, the two times were, one of the best seasons in team history. And then this year with 13 wins at the All-Star break. Or is it 13?
13.
Yeah, 13.
Yep.
Oh, well.
47.
David, let me ask you, David, are you going to have time before you get in the truck to that sign you put up at the end of the at the driveway there at the cabin says welcome Florida Sportscaster of the Year, David Steele? Make sure
I'll probably leave that up leave it up.
Okay. All right. Okay.
He's just going to move it to the border. He's just going to move it over to the border.
I'm sure it was hard to put up in the middle of the night so no one saw you, with your flashlight.
Well, it was raining. It was raining.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's a
sleep,
little chilly
sleet and snow. Yeah, it was,
Little
it was
chilly,
tough,
yeah.
but we got it.
I'm
We got it
surprised.
done.
I'm surprised the highway patrol let you put the one right on the interstate there, right?
That
Welcome-
was nice.
passing,
The
welcome
billboard.
to North
At
Carolina.
I-26.
Yeah,
And I-26, yeah, that was tough.
yeah, that's hard. It's hard to do.
It was pretty creative. It said congrats to me and then crossed out David. No, that's awesome though. That's great. But last thing, let's go around and give me one or two guys that you, I think the last 22 games are obviously critical for everybody. We don't know the status of Isaac and Markel. If they come back, to me, that's the obvious answer. It's probably most important for those two, but keeping them out of it because we don't know the status. Get one or two guys that these last 22 games are most important. And I think, to me, it's RJ and Chuma, right? I'll throw that out there. To me, can RJ have a situation like Jalen Suggs did, where he's been watching for 6 weeks, working with the assistants? Can he have kind of an epiphany that Jalen had, George, like he kind of told us, and JT and all that, and David, like it got, could it be a similar thing where he learned the nuances of the game and we see a different RJ for the final 22 games? And Chuma's been talking for the last month, after All-Star break, after All-Star break, after All-Star break. I think he's got something in his mind where it triggers, he's going to have an opportunity for this thing to kind of kick in. So to me, those two guys, it's very important, these last 22 games. I'd be curious what you guys think.
Well, I think those are two good names. I mean, I think you could make an argument for all of the young guys in particular. Mo Bamba, he's at the end of his contract. He's got, the team has big decision to make about him. He's got, big decisions to make about his future. How does he compete the last 22 games? So, I'll be keeping an eye on that. And then Cole Anthony started the year, so strong at the point guard position. And then he had a little bit of a slump when he came back from injury. And I think he's picked it up again leading into the All-Star break. So, you could make a case for all of these guys, JT, that, they have a lot to work on. They still have a lot to prove going down the stretch of this season.
Yeah, I would agree. When Dante asked the question, I thought my first thought was Mo Bamba. It's like, because it has been, we've seen flashes of like, wow, this is what it can be. And then, there are times when it's just hadn't worked for him, whether it's foul trouble or injuries or whatever it is. But I guess, as I look at our foundation and our core group of guys, I'm really interested to see. I just want to see the effects of being in Cleveland this weekend on our three guys, Franz and Jalen and Cole, and I really want to see what they come back with. Right? Are they energized? Are they, where does it go from here? Like for me, like the one thing from Jalen's standpoint is I just want him to come away and say, you know what, I thought I belonged, but now I know, right? Like I am an elite, I can be an elite player in this league. And I've got 22 games to show.
I love that.
Show that that I can be the guy. And, that's kind of, those are the kind of things I want to see how they react from that and everything. But to your point, it's going to be interesting, George, as you kind of pointed out, we're integrating more guys back in, so RJ is going to come back. Now we've got another guard with Markel coming back and, just kind of seeing the puzzle pieces and how Jamal and his staff put it all together and how they react to one another. It's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, I agree with all those. And like you said, you can pick almost anybody on the roster. My first thought initially was Jalen, Still, and Franz, just to see how we finish the season, how strong that, like Franz has been very consistent for the majority of the season. Can he go through the last 22 games? First of all, can he play all 82? Can he make it to the end and play all 82? Knock on wood.
Do you feel, George, real quick, do you feel that's important to him? Has he brought that up?
Yeah. I think he has a little bit of a, not to say that all the guys don't want to play every game, but I think he has a different mentality when it comes to pushing through some little injuries and wanting to stay on the floor. I think he takes a little bit of pride in the fact that you can look at, he's one of only, I think it's 6 or 7 guys in the league right now that have played and started all of
Five,
the
I think.
games,
I think
right?
down
It's
to
a,
five
it's a
now,
low
yeah.
number. I gotta get that fact before too long. But I think it's important for him to be on the floor and continue, that push to making the all rookie first team. I don't know if he can get to the rookie of the year. I think there's, one or two guys, that have really kind of separated themselves a little bit, especially too with the way that Cleveland is playing. It may be hard to pull that thing away from Evan Mobley. But I mean, for him, he should be on the all rookie first team. And I think that's a goal for him, a good individual goal for him to try to reach at the end of the year. Hopefully Jalen Suggs can continue his play after his injury to go in an upward trajectory. And like JT said, so he sees where things are going. He sees the game slowing down. But another one to me that really he kind of goes underlooked a lot is Wendell Carter Jr. I think that he has really been really, really solid the last 20 or so games, to where he is a consistent double-double, energy on both sides of the floor, somebody that you can count on to be on the floor and to lead down low. I think he's a pretty big piece for us going forward, and to see where he can solidify himself in this group over the last 22, and then going into next season where we build around Wendell.
I know JT. That's his guy. That's his
The only reason
Right.
I didn't mention him was because I just don't want to always say Wendell. But I'm with you, George.
We could do another half hour on Wendell. I think all of us agree.
I agree. I just think
he's our guy.
He's been very steady and shown improvement. And like the three's not going down for him the way it was in the very, very beginning of the year, but you knew it wasn't going to stay at that clip.
Sure.
But he's still taking those shots. He's still being aggressive. And I just got to tell him we're playing the Bulls every night. If we're playing the Bulls every night, he's good to go.
Well, guys, 14 points, 10 rebounds, 50% from the floor. Your company is Giannis, Jokic, Sabonis, Adebayo, Valanciunas, Ayton, Jared Allen, Rudy Gobert. We don't think of them in that category. Maybe yet.
Those are all stars.
Thank you. Right? I mean, is he?
Yeah.
He's on that trajectory. I think that's
Right.
the beauty of what you just said. He's in that.
Yeah.
That's elite
And all
company.
with nobody talking about him. I mean, really, because
Right,
when we look
right.
at our team, it's always like Jalen Suggs, Franz Wagner, Cole Anthony, Markelle Fultz. Like
Yep.
nobody is talking about Wendell.
And he's 22 years
and he's
old.
22 years old.
Yeah.
I just think the sky is the limit for Wendell.
Can we just not figure out the goggle thing? I guess we just can't figure that out.
We
The-
need
the
new
size.
goggles. Horace Grant's never snapped in half, and Bo Outlaws seem to always stay on his face. Like we got to figure out the goggle thing for sure.
I don't know.
Not very good
My
at goggles.
research says they've got like 15 pairs of those goggles, so I think we've got them for a
Doesn't
while.
matter.
We're all
No,
set.
doesn't-
It's a good thing.
Just
Doesn't
it'd be
matter.
nice to keep them on. Well, David,
Yeah.
safe travels and enjoy Buc-ee's. Are you a Buc-ee's guy? Will you get you some
Oh yeah.
stop through there? Okay.
I just got to get out of here before the Canadian geese start swooping in. They migrate in here and they come right over the top of this darn thing, and you got to get out of here before they start messing things up.
Well, get out of here. You don't want too many geese over that sign. You know what'll happen. So grab that sign and get on back. All right.
All right,
See you guys.
guys.
Take care. Safe travels. We'll see you
All
tomorrow.
right.
That'll do it for Magic Pod Squad. We'll see you next week.